This week's episode is about sin and temptation. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. So today, Sunday, was the first Sunday of Lent. And every year, the Revised Common Lectionary has the temptation of Jesus by Satan out in the wilderness as the reading for the day. So this week, I've spent a lot of time thinking about temptation, especially in the context of Lent. We observe the 40 days of Lent in memory of Jesus having spent those 40 days out in the wilderness fasting and praying. And it was at the end of that time that Satan showed up to tempt Jesus to turn stones into bread, to prove his value to God, or to have power over all that is if Jesus would just worship Satan. And of course, Jesus declined all of these things. There's a lot in the story that is significant for today. But I want to talk a little bit more about temptation and sin in a contemporary context, because we have no problem identifying temptation for ourselves. We are tempted by lots of things, some of it pretty benign and some of it pretty unhealthy. I think one of the temptations that we really have is to not value ourselves as God's beloved. As you may recall the story, Jesus went into the wilderness right after he was baptized. So hearing the echo of the words, "This is my beloved son, listen to him," or "This is my beloved son with whom I am well pleased," depending on which gospel you're reading. But we find ourselves in the wilderness and facing temptations all the time. And some of those temptations hold a lot of power over us because of the emptiness we feel inside. We fail to recognize our value as God's beloved, and we fail to believe that our lives can make a difference, that what we say and what we do can affect the changes that we need to see in the world. And it leads to apathy or ambivalence. And that just keeps the cycle going, where we may not feel that we're good enough. And that's, I think, one of the greatest sins of contemporary Christians or contemporary progressive Christians. So we simply don't recognize that we are God's beloved, that we have value, that it is our responsibility to embody Christ in the world and stand up for justice, for love, for equality, wherever we find ourselves. So if you want to give up something this Lent, I encourage you to give up devaluing yourself, feeling like what you say and do doesn't matter, and really get out there and make a difference. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.